Good morning. Oh no, good afternoon actually. It's Monday, it's 2021 and it's a really grey, miserable Monday here in the UK. But let me know where you're tuning in from in the comments. It's always we're back. It's a new year. I'm not sure when we went off in December before Christmas. I hope everyone had a good Christmas, if we're allowed to say that, and talk about Christmas and the New Year. But hope everyone had a good festive break. And yeah, I think when we went off, we probably didn't know we'd be in another lockdown here in the UK. But it's an exciting day, I think. If you see the news, it gives us some hope that we are moving in the right direction. They're ramping up the vaccines, and retail will be reignited in 2021, I promise. So ping me a note, tell me where you are in the world and where you're tuning in, and that you're actually back here watching me ramble on another Monday. So if you've got any kids, like I said, I'm a homeschooling parent, not today, but I am a homeschooling parent, so I feel your pain. For those that wished me well on my new career path when I posted last week, thank you. I am surviving. I'm sure everyone else is enjoying having the kids about. So anyway, I didn't know what to talk about today. I just wanted to kind of get back to some normality in my diary and talk to some people. So please ping me a note, talk to me in the comments, whatever you do, and let's chat about retail. This is all about what's next for retail. What's next? What's this year going to bring to retail? So I've got some thoughts. I'd love to hear yours. So again, do kind of engage, and we will open this up as a kind of open dialogue. So, but I think for me, retail 2021 is going to be interesting. It's obviously going to face some challenges, the same challenges that we had last year, the same challenges kind of exacerbated by the pandemic, but also by the changing nature of the consumer. And I think we talked about that so much in all of these Monday sessions last time rounds, and I think they're still as important as ever. But I think that we will kind of meander through the next few months and weeks and see how many people get vaccinated every week and all of those sort of things. And I think that will give us some kind of hope as to what the summer is going to bring. I think there'll be a sort of summer of celebration, and we will feel that in retail. And I think there are, as well as kind of retail, physical retail, it'll be through activations and brand engagement and all those kind of things. And I think that will add a whole new renaissance to retail. I think retail has got a long sort of rocky future. I think it needs to navigate past this year and onto a kind of new resonance with people, and I think that will come. The short term is to engage and inspire, and to bring those people who, like all of us, that are sort of stuck indoors, and will be ready by hopefully Easter onwards. But I think 2021 is already an interesting playing field. I think I posted this morning, and excuse anyone who's not in the UK, but I posted this morning about 214 Oxford Circus, which is, for anyone outside of the UK, it's kind of our most iconic, probably one of the most iconic buildings in London in terms of retail. It's Topshop. Its main flagship. It was the biggest fashion store in the world. I think that now goes to Primark in Birmingham. So well done to them. But I think it's such an iconic position. It's on Oxford Circus. You would meet there after work. You would meet your friends there. It's the iconic retail space. And obviously with Topshop An Arcadia Group going in administration last year. That store is now up for grabs. And I think it's a really interesting way to start the year, is to actually, there's a whole new sort of piece for retail in terms of it's kind of a bit like the transfer market in football. I feel is that there's a lot of pieces that need to kind of fit into the jigsaw over the next few weeks, and I'm fascinated to watch it play out. So there's kind of a whole piece around what happens to Arcadia. Obviously, some of I think Evans has already been bought up and to go online, but Topshop obviously is the jewel in the crown. And I think that adds a whole new interesting piece to where retail will be going for us here for the next few years. Is what happens to Topshop? What happens to that store, for example? Who takes that store? And if you sort of look through, and I know it's a really sort of overarching view, and I suggest you take a look at the article, but it's kind of listing out potentially who the suitors are for that space, and it's a 5-floor huge space in the centre of London. So, but I think what it goes to highlight is the ever evolving nature of retail, and then it's kind of who are the darlings of retail at the moment. And it's interesting because Arcadia was such a huge player, and now there's so many people. So I think it's interesting to look, because there's conversations around Next buying Topshop. There's conversations around Boohoo, which is an online-only brand buying Topshop. And I think a lot of that will play into actually who, where, how it's positioned, all of those things. But actually, the Oxford Circus store is a really interesting piece, because not only are traditional bricks and mortar retailers like Next being talked about, like JD Sports, like Frasers, like Primark, all of those, the Inditex group, but could it be someone completely different? Could it be ASOS, for example? And how incredible would it be? I've always sort of envisaged what an ASOS environment would look like, but how can ASOS move from being a online only retailer to move into a physical space? And it could be the space like that allows them to be completely experiential and in their delivery. And I think they've obviously got money to kind of spend. They're building a whole new distribution centre in Staffordshire, and I think that begins to add a whole new layer. So there's exactly the same with THG or the Hut Group. They I think they've got 4.5 billion floating around after a public listing, a hugely successful public listing last summer or end of last year, and they own a whole plethora of beauty, fitness, and well-being brands. So you just have to start to look at actually where these businesses are buying up a number of brands. And Marks and Spencer have just looking to buy Jaeger and kind of repositioning. So I think there's a huge, exciting piece around Retail 21 in this transfer market, and it's bad because I think it's a reflection of what's happened in the past 12 months with these businesses going into administration and being available to be kind of snapped up. But yeah, Boohoo are snapping up Karen Millen, Coast to be online. But kind of how are they thinking about these businesses? Look, Frasers and House of Fraser and Sports Direct have also been doing the same thing. They've been combining these sort of groups into a sort of positioning that begins to make a really interesting proposition. So I think that's a huge piece for me. As exciting about Retail 2021 is that there's a kind of new renaissance of and I'm just reading Ian's comment here about these sort of house of brands. I think you just have to look at what's happening out there in terms of how these kind of juxtaposed brands and names are all being sort of put together to create the ultimate consumer shopping experience. And I think the curated shopping experience is definitely the way retail will go. You just have to look at the success of Selfridges, for example. and how curated that is as a destination. It's honed in on a very sort of specific demographic and kind of overarching demographic. And I think that's really interesting to see how some of this, the same piece is beginning to be played out for other brands. So yeah, Next, they're opening Next Beauty, and if they're looking at how they can maybe take on some of the Arcadia brands alongside that position, and maybe a Topshop as a separate piece. They've obviously bought Victoria's Secrets, so you can begin to look at what Next traditionally was, and how Next is beginning to bolt on these additional services that they can then use their huge reach. They can put their huge Next arms around these brands and talk to their consumer and bring them into the kind of Next family. And if I think it's really exciting and kind of, yeah, it makes total sense for retail to go that way. And same for House of Fraser. And John, I've just seen you put a note on here about Schofields. Like, I love Schofields, and I think that is the pure kind of overarching piece that I think retail. I still love Dover Street Market. Like Dover Street Market, even when I was at Topman and how 10 years ago, which is bad to say, I think it shows how old I am now. That Dover Street Market was the kind of start of this. It was a place of all these brands in this kind of visual experience, and Schofields is that. I think it's that and more, and bringing these brands to life in one big experiential piece. And how if a consumer is going to engage, I think that they're less likely to engage unless they're in a mall. But I think that the days of that kind of window shopping, and we talked about it last year, where everyone kind of just goes out and wanders around, and you pop into this shop and you pop into that, is very different, because and it harks back to what we talked about last time, is you're so much more consumed already by the brand. You're already a fan, you're already knowledgeable about it, and you're already in that environment. So when you go out, you're going out to integrate yourself into that brand physically. And I think if you can start then bolting on other brands or other experiences, so for example, yeah, we talked about Fraser's last year, but they've got gaming there, they've got USC, they've got Evans Cycles. How easy is that then to become part of a different part of the business when you're on that journey? How amazing it is that they can sell FIFA as a game, but they can also sell you the football boots that are being used in that game and the football kit. The whole piece is there, and you're capturing the data, you're capturing the information, you're capturing that consumer. You're probably pulling a consumer from a different part of your business into a different thing, and I think that begins to play out a whole new piece in retail. That, yeah, last year was carnage on the high street, but there's a sort of renaissance of that if you look at what's happening. And yeah, I talk about it like the transfer market it's all, and a lot of things move with other things. So what happens if Klarna, for example, and there's a lot of talk about Klarna, and they did this fantastic pop-up shop, but they're not a retailer, but they provide payment services for retail. So they deal with brands. They manage payment services for brands. The same for PayPal. Like, what they can touch so many more new. Not only traditional retailers can open store environments. So there was talk that Klarna can do something. They did a fantastic pop-up in Manchester. So why could they not open an ever-evolving space that showcases either the brands that they deal with in a new way, but also there's a number of online-only brands that they deal with. Wild, we did a pop-up shop before Christmas. Unfortunately, it didn't open because of lockdown. But that was a small startup that was online only that moved into a pop-up in Bluewater because the space was there. The leasing terms were really good, and it was a case for them to experiment and to kind of get their product physically in front of the consumer. So I'm seeing so many. I'm just rabbiting on because that's what I do, and then I look at all the comments. So the other one I was just going to talk about, and I didn't even know anything about it, was no, excuse my French, not in a swear word, but La Samaritaine. It could be a swear word if you are French, but which is LVMH's department store in Paris. Like, I didn't, excuse my blasphemy of not knowing about it, but that is another incredible piece to the retail jigsaw. If you look at that, and again, if I'll post about that tomorrow, but it's a department store that LVMH have bought a while back, a long time back, in Paris. But they're going through a whole piece of refurbishing it and bringing it to life. And but that will house all of their brands. Again, it will be a whole new department store of incredible brands. So, but again, brought to life in one environment. So let's just go through some of these comments because I asked you to comment and then I completely just rabbit on. So Kevin, good to see you. Hope you're doing well. But I've been thinking about the role of demonstration moving forward and how this is best delivered in a world where most shopping happens online. Yeah, totally agree, Kev. I think we talked about it a lot last year, but the physical space. And I think that goes back to kind of like if we talk about Klarna, for example, or ASOS, or these sort of brands that move. So Gymshark, for example, like any of these businesses that are online only brands. But you just have like Dyson as well. They're kind of they summed that up for the last few years in terms of how they're elevating their experience. That the physical store becomes a whole demo piece that you begin, because that's where it was my random analogy last year about buying a coat. It's the same, Peloton's incredible. Like, I love what Peloton looks like. I love how it but it's a huge investment. So to go out and get on that bike and try it before you invest in the kit, it's got to be done in the physical. And it goes back to my kind of real layman's terms that I was trying to buy a coat last year, and to do that online for me was pretty impossible because it's the same with jeans. I could tell you the same challenge I'm finding now with jeans, and not only because of Christmas. But yeah, you can't, all of those things you can't do online. It goes back to everything, like the same with any product, the Hut Group sells beauty, fitness and well-being. They've got like a country club in Hale that they pretty much own and operate and put all of their brands into, and that is hitting the target audience of those brands. So to the future of retail, and especially retail 2021, is getting brands and product physically in front of people. And if that's through stores, through pop-ups, through collaborations, and I'll talk about collaborations because that's my next thing, I think, for this year, through marketing campaigns, through taking on new store environments, it's getting people to physically engage with the product. And it goes back to the bit that we talk about, I kind of bang on about, is that retailers need to revise their strategy in line with that piece. And until they do, there's going to be this disparity between what the store needs to do in terms of commercial sales and what it needs to do in terms of engagement. And the brands that take that, the brands that hone in on this piece around engaging the consumer with their product, and whether you then buy it there, whether you go off and buy it from a website, whether you buy it from a third party, it's about ensuring that you're engaging on the right level and you're coming away as a fan or as a customer. And you can see that happen, and I think you can see why probably Frasers is beginning to elevate, or Sports Direct is beginning to elevate their kind of experience, because to kind of ensure that they're getting the brands in there, like Adidas's and Nike's and the likes, they need to be elevating it to the same level as the experiences that you can get in a Nike retail environment. And I think you can see why Nike is pulling away from these sort of wholesale models, because they can't control how their brand is being presented on places like Amazon and stuff like that. So I think the future of the kind of the way brands and retail is delivered is maintaining the dialogue in terms of what's happened in the last nearly 12 months, is that brands have been communicating with their consumer and bringing that to life as we become a bit more physical. So I'm just reading to Deborah. Let's see. Constantly bombarded with imagery. Retail isn't enough. We need to rethink how we shop, places of entertainment, demonstrations, interaction, brand transparency. The only way forward. I'm sort of, thanks. I'm the massive advocate for display. Like the art of the visual is so important now, probably even more than it ever has been. But I got into visual, and probably what I do now, because I loved converting customers to or potential customers into customers because of the way they were inspired, the way you could inspire them to buy, you could inspire them to buy more. There's something about that they could buy, as well as the top, they could buy the trousers, they could buy the shoes, and they're something incredibly like strong in that you can encourage someone to do that. And I think that's now taking that step forward. Is we need to encourage people to engage with a product, to learn about it, to touch it, to taste it, to smell it, all of those things. And the visual or teams or whoever, and it's a combination now. I think it's changing, is that it's a combination of not just the visual, but it needs a marketing team, it needs an e-com collaboration, it needs to be much more wrapped up, and then down to the people that are selling it in the store. And that whole piece needs to be wrapped up. Is that, I think that retail, there's some that has kind of just been, we talked about it last year, it's just been okay to put windows and graphics in and imageries and products and it's not okay. It's not good enough. Averages over 2021 is going to be a rocky start, but I really think that we're going to be ready to consume. I think we're going to want to be consuming on a whole new sort of level, in a new way, and that's through being inspired, feeling a connection to a brand or a retailer, and also a trust, a loyalty, all of those things. And I think that probably, and that piece, that interconnected piece, where if we really love a brand and then they begin to link up with another brand, whether that's through buying them up, or putting them under their umbrella of their wings, and doing something, or through a collaboration. And I think I posted last week, and I absolutely adore the Gucci North Face Pokemon, because like, what an incredible collab. And I think there's so much in collaborations, and that's what has been really excited about the pandemic, if you can talk about it being exciting, is that it's allowed a lot more dialogue, even for someone like me, to talk to people, to open up around being more collaborative, not only in terms of communication, in the way we're working, who we're working with, how we're working on projects, and all those sort of things. So it's really exciting to see brands doing the same, and it kind of, what better way to make people engage and come out. And you know, they're in China again, and I get more and more frustrated about how amazing some of the stuff is in China. And come on, UK, we're gonna do something this year and blow China out the water in terms of pop-up experiences, because I want to do it. And yeah, I think there's so many cool things that collaborations can do, because they begin to connect pieces that maybe you can't do on your own. So yeah, Gucci, I know they do Gucci pins, but they can't do gamification because they don't have that. But drop Pokemon into it and have Pokemon Go, and it adds a whole new level of engagement. And then you put the North Face on there, and you begin to play around with all that. And how cool is that? Like, how innovative can retail get now with doing these kind of things? You know, Louis Vuitton have just done Urs Fisher, and that kind of the juxtaposition again of all of those two brands just gives you a whole new lease of life. And last year, there were some amazing collaborations, and this year I think it's going to be even better. And it doesn't have to be fashion. It's sort of juxtaposition of two types of things. So I see that Hype are doing something with Lego, Ninjago or Ninjago, and who else? Starbucks are doing something with Playmobil. Like, you'd never put these two brands together, I don't think, 2 years ago. But you can see why it's happening. My kids love Starbucks. My kids love Playmobil. And I think for someone who loves brand and retail, these kind of things that are happening are so exciting, and just ensure that we can begin to bring these things to life. So I'm just seeing some more of the comments on there. So yeah, lots of stuff from Neil. So I won't. You can probably in the comments, but brands will have to work harder to build their tribe in a divided world. And I think that's so true, Neil. Is that, yeah, we had last year was a terrible year in terms of everything that's going on in the world. I think we're all a bit more divided. Hopefully, again, we're on the right page. Someone's been banned from Twitter, so you never know what this year could bring. And I think we're needing these kind of new ways to interact with each other, interact with people, and maybe demographics that we don't typically engage with, or all of those sort of things. I think that retail or brand delivery allows us to do that. So it's about bringing to life an experience with product, and that's kind of what I think for this year. And it's exciting. It was negative. I was definitely negative for first couple of weeks of this. Well, feels like we're in halfway through the year already, but the first week was probably really negative in terms of where we're going. But there's definitely a way for retail to kind of navigate through. there's so many exciting things happening. Yeah, I think there's been some major casualties. There's still going to be some casualties. You just have to look. Paper chase is another one that's being discussed. But it's about leveling out. That's my dog walking around. So it's not my high heels tapping on the floor. But it's about there's a reset. There's a new renaissance of brands and retailers, and there's a new piece for offline brands to bring to the table, and that's what I'm excited for. So 2021, here we are. It's the year of I don't know what the year. I need to come up with a term. So maybe that's what next week. Anyone's got any thoughts on what we're going to call this year for retail? I think last year was a year of don't even know what that is either. So I shouldn't have started that conversation. John, great point. Yeah, I think we're not very quick at getting going. I think we spend a lot of time deliberating, but I think what the pandemic and the end, or hopefully the end to the pandemic, gives us is something we have to work towards. We have to, if brands and retail and the conversations I'm having with everyone at the moment is, yes, we don't know exactly when. I know that Chris Whitty was asked this morning to give a date, and there's no end date at the moment, but we know that somewhere between now and the rest of the year, we are going to have a sort of renaissance. And yeah, Florin, you've just reminded me, we're going to go back to the 20s, the golden 20s. We're going to have this period of frivolity, I think, and retail has to be ready to capture that. Those that aren't are gonna struggle, really struggle. There's a long-term strategy that I think is about the whole of the retail reset. There's a short-term piece is now about engaging that pent-up demand. And yeah, I had a conversation this morning. Right, we've not had to worry about what we've looked from the bottom half down for nearly 12 months. So, I like this stuff. You've just put 2021, the future is fluid. Now, how that is, the future is fluid. If I can't, that's it. I think it's definitely a fluid. It's about engaging. It's about moving as things need. I think you can start to see that's happening with these sort of retailers. The retail transfer market. Who would have thought M&S would buy Jaeger? They buy them, but it makes sense. And collabs, creative engagement on a whole new level, and I'm excited to be part of it. I hope everyone else is. Yeah, I know it's tough. I think it's going to be tougher for a while. I know retailers are not, obviously there's no big orders, there's no window displays, there's none of that. But as I sort of passionately come on here every week, and I did last year, there is a future. There's a future for all of us in it. There's a future for all of the incredibly talented people out there that work in retail. And it's a changing landscape, but it's definitely. Someone sent me a message the other day saying I'm sort of banging the drum for retail 3.0, but I love that. So yeah, so I'm back. I'm going to do this every Monday, even if it's just to get stuff off my out of my head that I write down, and I'm going to try and get some more people on. Like I had Adrian last year from Nike. So again, don't all put your hands up at once, because I know it's difficult to encourage you to come on. But if you want to come on or send me anything or have any form of engagement on here, then please do. If not, I will continue to come on and chat about what's happening and what I'm seeing and what I'm thinking. So I do on YouTube. I do put all the videos up on YouTube afterwards. So if you miss anyone, if you want to go back to YouTube, I don't even know what the link is, but I'll send the link. You will find all of my rambles on there. And that's it. So enjoy week number 2 of January. And I'll see you next week. Same time, same place. Cheers, guys. Bye.